Hello everybody! So here's Lenny Delir again, and I'm here to talk to you about ENTJ versus INTJ. First things first, I want to say this. A lot of people believe that splitting ENTJ from INTJ, ENFP from INFP, ESTP from ISTP is one of the most difficult things. It is not. Because these types actually see the world from such different lenses that are actually easier to split than other types, so like for example quasi-identicals. When I say quasi-identical, I mean those types that have the functions basically swapped. Swapped in a way that they do similar things. For example, ESTP and ESTJ are quasi-identicals. INFJ and INFP are quasi-identical. These types have the functions in a position that at first they look similar, and they are very difficult to split. But what concerns mirrors, which means ENTJ, INTJ, ENFJ, INFJ, ESFJ, ISFJ, ENTP, INTP, INFP, ENFP, these splits are actually easier to figure out in the external world, and they're easier to categorize than other combinations. What we can use to help ourselves work best on this kind of split is their vulnerabilities and their mobilized function. But we're going to get there. I'm going to start with extroverted thinking and going through the stack, explaining the functions in the position in both types. So for this split, we're going to go through the functions. So starting from extroverted thinking. What is extroverted thinking? Extroverted thinking is a way to see categorization of the world that comes from outside. So basically, ENTJs have this view of the world, this organization of the world that picks how the world is organized and how things should work from the external world. The reason is that the focus of extrovert thinking is on how well something is performing. So we're talking about a concept of efficiency. How well is this thing performing? So a person in a position at work, like a secretary, executive secretary, is going to be seen by an ENTJ according to how well the person is performing their job. A microwave is going to be taken into account by an ENTJ according to how well the microwave can perform. ENTJs are like ESTJs, anyway, TE dominants are the paradigm of common thinking and group thinking. So basically what they do is take how everybody does it and apply it to themselves and enforce it on other people. That's why TE dominants are the most bossy types in MBTI. That's because they are enforcers of already existing rules that are commonly accepted as working. And they make sure and keep an eye on how well people are performing with those rules, according to those rules that have already been established outside. T dominants, so ENTJs, are TI ignoring. It means that anything that is personal reasoning, anything that is personal views, anything that is personal categorizations of the world is going to be completely ignored by ENTJs and ESTJs. An ENTJ's mantra is going to be, you're not paid to think. So quit the thinking, because we already have the rules established and we're going to apply the rules that work and that everybody accepts. This is ENTJ's extroverted thinking in a nutshell. INTJs instead, like we've seen in the other split video, INTJs are creative. It means that they creatively apply this sense of efficiency. So they look at how well something performs and they try to see if that thing that performs well in that place, placed in another position, can possibly perform a different way, or if it still performs well. So basically they can take a microwave and try to use it to do other things. To see if the microwave can also work in that sense and be efficient also in that sense. They like to build and unbuild things and to basically see how they can build and rebuild them. INTJs are more focused on theories and on not actually theories. That's more a TI thing. TE is focused on knowledge and knowing for the sake of it. Theory is more aimed in the sense I'm using the term right now. So basically, INTJs are going to learn socionics or MBTI, the way it works, and see how it performs. So for example, an ENTJ is going to be the person that knows MBTI and socionics by heart, doesn't place any innovation whatsoever, explains things the way they work, and wants those rules applied that specific way. That's the ENTJ, T dominant. T creative instead in INTJ is going to learn the theory and see how the theory is built, what the theory's rules are, take it and try to apply it to another something. Like for example, INTJs are those types that take the rules of MBTI and see if they can apply on animals, or that try to see if they can apply on children. This is the kind of experiment that an INTJ could conduct. Neither type brings in any kind of innovation whatsoever. So they take the rules exactly the way they are, and they apply the rules exactly the way they are. For an ENTJ and an INTJ, in both cases, there's no such things as recategorizing something. It doesn't exist. INTJs are TI demonstrative, so it means that they have this tendency to take a statement, a bit of a statement, and pick it apart and destroy it in every possible way using factual information. So they're going to try to refute small chunks of reasoning to prove it wrong from a factual point of view. So basically, if you say something about one of my videos, for example, INTJs and ISTJs jump in, take a chunk of what I said, and start bringing up quotes of socionics and MBTI or whatever from sites that they consider reliable, that according to them say the opposite of what I said. That's what INTJs and ISTJs generally do. ENTJs, on the other hand, and ESTJs, so TE dominants, instead, being TI ignoring, have a very different approach. They do not take things and try to disembowel them. They pick a detail and focus on that detail. For example, if you post a meme with Frodo Baggins stating that it's with a sentence not stating that, well, maybe you take, okay, again, you take a meme with a meme with Frodo Baggins, and underneath there's a sentence about INFJs. The ENTJ is going to be the person that jumps in and says, Frodo Baggins is not an is not an INFJ. So there's a joke about INFJs, but just because there's a picture of Frodo Baggins, the ENTJ is going to jump in and not see the joke at all and just start out, Frodo Baggins is not an INFJ. Which is debatable because movie characters can be typed a gazillion of ways, and that's why I find it fun to type movie characters, because every time you see a different aspect and they can be a gazillion of types, and that's really funny. There's a reason, parenthesis, just a small digression. The reason, because you can see all those aspects, is that they're not true people. So the true person has a line of conduct. The character instead is a mix of different people's way of thinking. So sometimes you see a side of one of the writers, sometimes you see the director's touch, and so they're being a mix. You can see a lot of sides, and they're never clear cut and exactly the way they are, the way a person would be, and that's why it's fun to type movie characters. Digression closed. Moving on. Introverted intuition. So ENTJs are intuition pretty. It means that they enjoy seeing underlying meanings and the process behind things from a creative point of view. So they are a little bit ostracized from society along with their cousins, the ENFJs, because of this reason, because they tend to be a little bit psychologists. So if the ENFJ is going to look at you and see what your feelings, moods, and emotions are doing, and why, what could cause those emotions and feelings, and what could instead not cause those emotions and feelings, where those emotions and feelings are heading, and that kind of approach, the ENTJ instead is focused on facts. So what is going to happen is that you're going to say something about yourself, and the ENTJ is going to be the kind of psychologist that walks up to you and tells you, okay, you gave me this fact about you. General psychology says this about this thing, whereas MBTI says this about that. Socionics says this. Enneagram gives you this possibility. It says this. So from this point of view, I think that what you're doing is this in Socionics and this in Enneagram. Therefore, if you keep going on with that behavior, you're going to end up, etc. And they're going to enforce that. They're not going to listen to reason. And this is why they're similar to ENTPs, who are their quasi-identicals. They don't listen, neither type listens to reasons when it comes to their logic conclusions. The ENTJ, because they're enforcers of rules, and the ENTP instead, because they don't like to see they don't like to have their logic touched. They like to play with their logic themselves. Well, we will see them in another video. They're an infantile type, just for the record. Anyway, just another digression. Going through the types this way we're doing, I had to realize that a lot of types, a gazillion of types, almost every type has some reason why they don't want to listen to reason. And that's really hilarious. Anyway, moving on. INTJs instead are an I dominant. So being an I dominant means that cause and affect and intuition is their first way of thinking. So what does it mean? What does it mean? It means that we've seen that they use extrovert thinking in a creative way. They use the rules to see if they can apply also to other realms, and if things can work also other ways. And that's because they follow their intuition. So for INTJs, their primary focus is actually on how they perceive things intuitively. So they first build the cause and effect chain with the information they gathered from the external world, and then they produce their conclusion with extrovert thinking. So always following what is accepted by the majority of their entourage, of course, which is how extrovert thinking works. They follow different applications. No innovation. Again, it's just different applications. There is no innovation whatsoever. It's just the idea, for example, an INTJ can come up with the idea that if they have a pen that works well and performs well as a pen, when the pen stops writing, they can use it, for example, to stop something from moving because it is a stick. So they can use it as a stick where they need a stick because the shape of the pen is a stick. So the function of a pen can be both that of a pen and that of a stick. That's how an INTJ thinks. Whereas the ENTJ uses the pen as a pen because it is a pen and it works as a pen. The moment it stops working, the pen is useless. So that's more or less the difference, and that's also because of their focus on extrovert intuition, because INTJs are extrovert intuition ignoring. It means that they have introvert intuition working in their mind. They see all the possibilities, all the ways in which a pen can be used, but they restrict it to the cause and effect use of their introvert intuition. So basically, every possibility that is not what they believe works is not going to even be taken into account. Whereas the ENTJ disembowels and destroys anything that is a possibility extra. So there is no such thing as two uses of a pen, because that's multiple ways, multiple possibilities. And that's extrovert intuition. The potential of something is not taken into account at all by these types. That's why I say there is no innovation whatsoever. These types do not consider innovating. Betas also are blocked in this sense. As extrovert intuition potential is not an option, and there's no innovation whatsoever. For ENTJs, it is because they are extrovert intuition demonstrative. Therefore, they have to prove, and they will try to prove that potential doesn't matter. Whereas for INTJs, like I said, extrovert intuition ignoring. So potential to them is something that is used for the goals of their introvert intuition. INFJs, similar, just in the social realm. Moving on. Here we start seeing, from this moment on, we start seeing the very big differences between these two types. ENTJs are extroverted sensing mobilized. It means that their secret dream is that of being ESFPs. They highly admire ESFPs and extrovert sensing dominance, and they would want to be good at using extrovert sensing. It means that ENTJs want to apply their willpower and their will. ENTJs want to learn to use their own political influence on the external world. Political influence is an extrovert sensing type trait. Sorry. So basically, they want to use their own force. They want to use their own power, and they want to achieve things through their own power. When we have the TE and TE SE combo, we see a very territorial and territory-oriented type. So in this case, we have the ENTJ that is extremely bossy and that wants the rules that work for everybody applied, that uses or tries to use his own personal force and power to enforce it. So they're basically rule enforcers. Literally enforcers, because of this extroverted sensing tertiary. They are SI vulnerable. So it means that they lack relaxation. They have no idea how to relax. So they're basically constantly in motion, and they don't understand the importance of slowing down and chilling and taking a moment and relaxing. They don't understand that. For them, relax does not exist and does not have a reason to exist. So this is the block mobilized function and vulnerable function in ENTJs. So as you can see, we have a very forceful type that doesn't want to relax. So rules enforced with extroverted sensing and no rest for anyone. It's work, 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 work. That's an ENTJ. An INTJ, on the other hand, has, and we said we followed the function, so he is extroverted sensing seeking. It means that he admires people that use their willpower and likes to have the other person's willpower applied onto them. So the INTJ is that kind of person that appreciates being behind a big woman, for example, or a big man. They are those types that enjoy the idea of citing someone in power. They are, again, extroverted sensing, seeking, or suggestive. To an extent, they would want to set free from this thing, and that's because we always have some conflict with our valued functions. So in some way, they don't like the idea that they actually submit to anybody, and that's also INFJs. INTJs and INFJs are very submissive types, and that's because they have this strong attraction to powerful people. So they tend to be attracted to power. If you think of INFJs and INTJs, you have to think of power being the fire, and these types are the moth. They basically get burned from power and get absorbed from power, and they like power in other people. So that's extroverted sensing, suggestive or seeking or inferior in INTJs. And they are introverted sensing role function, which means that they have an odd accent on their personal health, and they have an odd accent on relaxation. On one side, they admire people who have the ability to relax and who have the ability to take care of their own personal health. They don't like to be pushed to do that because that goes against the goals of their dominant function, intuition. But at the same time, they dream of harnessing the power of introverted sensing, which means that they spend gazillions of time on websites researching material about health matters, how to relax, standard ways to relax, standard medicine ways to improve the physical condition. These are all things that INTJs have a tendency to do. So moving on, ENTJs instead are introverted feeling seeking. So it means that they are looking for someone with a strong personal and subjective sense of ethics. And they are appreciative of people that self-determine what is right and what is wrong. And they secretly dream of learning that a little bit, but they are completely absorbed by how another person applies right and wrong. And that's because that's how they develop their own personal sense of right and wrong. They basically borrow it from their partner and from another person. The EXTJs tend to be attached to religions or anyway communities or associations, any environment in which there are common determined rules that have to be applied, and where there is room for a personal subjective sense of right and wrong, and of personal moral. So they have this strong attraction for people that have a personal moral, a sense of morality, which is introvert feeling. And they are extrovert feeling role function, which means that they are attracted to and appreciative of enthusiastic people that can take environments from a negative state to a negative mood into a positive mood, that can create this happy and enthusiastic atmospheres. But at the same time, they don't want to have that imposed on them. They secretly would like to learn that a little bit. Therefore, what they do, what they generally end up doing, is going around with these plastic smiles. And the expression that you always and constantly see on an ENTJ's face is going to be a huge plastic smile. It's plastic, meaning that it doesn't move. We're talking about FI users. And FI users have zero mobility to their facial expression. So this type tends to have this plastic smile constantly printed on their face, and that's the weapon they use to try and disarm people and look a little bit more Superman and look a little bit more approachable. So I used to have one of my bosses in Passworks was an ENTJ. I find them amusing, honestly. They're kind of hilarious to me. And that's because of this thing that they go around with this plastic smile, and they have all this set of rules that have to be applied exactly that way. And if you go out of how you apply those rules, it's going to be a disaster. The world is not going to run the same way. And stop thinking, for fuck's sake, stop thinking. You're not allowed to think, because if you think, the world is going to end. It's really, I find them really amusing as a type. And so they have this kind of psychologically oriented focus on how the rules that everybody accepts have to be applied, and no innovation whatsoever. For fuck's sake, do not innovate anything. Leave things as they are. That's basically ENTJs in a nutshell. And INTJs we've seen also in another video that you can go check if you want. That's the previous video, if I don't go wrong, with ISTJs. And they are a little bit more aloof and in their world. Both types can make for good entrepreneurs anyway, and can be good in that realm. One fun thing, and then I'm going to close, is that the ENTJ is that kind of type that is going to end, for example, in an intermediate position of power in a company, and complain all day long why the ENTP that doesn't get things done is instead above his head and being the head of the company. And that's because ENTPs have this fresh, innovative sense of doing things. They are democratic type, and also ENTJs are democratic actually, but from a very different perspective. They want the rules everybody accepts applied, whereas the ENTP has this fresh approach of innovation. We have the innovator against the executor, basically. So basically, the executor is wandering all day through why the hell is the innovator above my head when I want power and he doesn't give a shit about having power. That's exactly because he doesn't give a shit about having power, and they have this focus on innovation that they move on in hierarchies. Um, I should probably not say this, but in the company where I work, in an affiliated company, there is an ENTJ that is falling down, while an ENTP is rising up. And the ENTJ is looking at the ENTP and is like, "Why the fuck is this happening?" He doesn't even look ahead, and I have this focus on the future, and I'm still falling down like I don't know what. That's ENTJs. That's why. That's why. And that's because you don't innovate anything. You just take rules and apply them. That's your issue. And actually, you don't even have to change that. That's what you do for society. So learn to accept yourself. That's everything I have about these two types on this plate, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.